Good afternoon, it's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology, and on a Monday I do a session which is focused on small businesses and how they can improve their IT and how they can protect their business more effectively. So today I'm going to be talking about backup recovery, the reason why you back up data, how you can recover, and also how you can speed up the performance of that. Prior to Christmas I also talked about RPO, so the specific recovery point objectives. So how far back you need to go back, and also the RTO, the recovery time objective, so how far forward it takes you to recover. And I'll recap on those in a little while. But first, what I'd like to do is just go through a couple of things that I'm doing this week. So tomorrow we've got a session in the hot seat. I'm actually going to be interviewing myself because I've done quite a lot of other interviews of other people, but I've not actually got around to telling many people about myself. So I thought it might be a good idea to do in the hot seat with Lee Cassidy and go through some understanding of my background and how I've got to where I am today, and a bit about my experience. Also on Wednesday we've got an enterprise session where we're talking about risk and compliance, and this is, I think, a really big subject for a lot of people, because a lot of organizations are going through especially some kind of digital transformation at the moment, and understanding their security risk and the risk of the infrastructure is really important, but also looking at compliance, and that could be compliance within internal compliance rules that have been set for security and infrastructure, but it could also be something like PCI or HIPAA or equivalent of for the UK for patient records compliance as well. So a lot of organizations looking at that. I'm going to discuss that on Wednesday afternoon. On Thursday we've actually got my regular in the hot seat with Lee Cassidy, but focused at anyone who's been through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 program for small businesses. And this week we've got Ben de Grouchy of eCruit to go through his experience and how he's taken the learning from that program and incorporate it into his business, and what impact it's had on the business as well. On Friday, what I'm going to do is cover some more on the physical security side, and we're going to talk about number plate recognition, how you can capture number plates and how you can utilize the data that you've captured. So taking that number plate and doing something with it, and we'll talk about that on Friday. So to kick off, I shall bring up my screen, and so we can actually see something. So I'm going to go through some infrastructure and demonstrate something in a second using this VMware environment. This is our VMware environment in our data center, which is in the Birmingham region. It's a tier 3 data center, it's extremely secure. But what I want to do is just tell you a little bit about why people need to protect data within their infrastructure. And I think there's a number of different reasons. One is it could be accidentally deleted by an employee. So a particular folder that's got, say, a lot of customer records in it, they accidentally delete it because they think they're deleting something else. It could also be accidentally moved to somewhere where you can't find it as well. So, be able to recover those files is quite important. We also get a lot of people that create new documents and they delete the old ones. So the old version is now gone, but sometimes they need to go back to an old version because there might be some quite relevant information in it. And at that point, they've already deleted it and they can't find it again. So they may want to get back to an old version as well. It could also be malicious. You may have got an employee that's not very happy because they've just been given their cards, and they decide to delete a lot of data. So it can be internally done. But also there's other issues where corruption can occur. So software itself, so the different applications that you're utilizing, can also corrupt data. So you could end up with a file or even a drive corrupted by the software that you're utilizing. And again, you need to be able to recover at that point in time. Also, it could be failure of some equipment. So you could have a hardware failure of a computing platform or a storage platform, and again, lose some of that real important data that you run your business on. Finally, it could be malicious from an external perspective. And we've seen a lot more of it nowadays is ransomware attacks, where someone compromises one of your machines or multiple machines within your environment and then starts to encrypt all the files. They've also learned quite quickly that if you're actually backing those files up, that you can recover from them. So they look for software-based products that are in the environment and look for files, especially backup files, and look to encrypt those as well to stop you recovering. So if you're utilizing an old method such as copying or using a software and backup program and copying them onto a removable drive to take home, but maybe not taking them home as often as you could be in a situation where all of your backups are also encrypted, so there's nowhere to recover to as well. So it can be a bit of a challenge if you end up in that situation and there's nothing to recover you back to where you want to be. So what I'm going to do is show you how you can actually do that recovery, and just refresh on the two pieces I've spoke about before, RPO and RTO. So recovery point objective, that's how far back you need to go from the point where either the file's been corrupted or you've had that ransomware attack or someone's accidentally deleted a particular file or folder to the point where you can recover. So how far back do I need to go? Traditionally, people used to do every 12 to 24 hours. So, most likely, 1, 2 in the morning. Some people used to do it every couple of days, and it all depends on the infrastructure and the amount of capacity you've got to store data, how often this happens. Nowadays, people are looking to be more 4-hourly or hourly or even constant data protection, and that's something that can be achieved as well. So that's losing no data at all. You can recover back to any point in time with no data loss. So a couple of things to think about with that, how far back you need to go. RTO, the recovery time objective. So from the point that I've had the disaster, so the deletion of the file, the ransomware attack, how long does it take me to get back into operation? So how much time does it take for me to recover? And old style traditional ways of doing this, where you'd have to get computers, you'd have to then install software on them and then put the recovery files on top of that, could be 2 to 3 days and longer sometimes to recover. And if you think about it, that's a long time in business terms to be out of action and not access to all the information you need. There is a statistic that most businesses that actually have a long-term outage that lasts more than 2 days will traditionally, 80% of them will go out of business within 6 months. So it is really important that you can do this and get it sorted properly. So on the right there, you can actually see my VMware environment, and there's a number of machines on there. And we're going to do the majority of work around this this server here, ABS3R01. And this is a reasonable size server. It's around about, it's two CPUs in computing terms, got 4 gig of memory, and you're looking at around about 450 gig of storage data on there between the two drives. So a reasonable amount of information, and it's equivalent of what most people are utilizing these days. And if we look over at the right hand side, the total storage usage is around about 450 gigs of total capacity. So average for someone who's running some kind of Windows based server where they're doing file and print type service and maybe a small database on there would take you into that range. So it should give you an equivalent environment for you at the moment. We're going to come back and look at some of the task data below in a little while, but what I'm going to do is take you over to our Tactile Protect platform, which we utilize a technology from an organization called Rubrik to do this. We use on-premise in our data center a hardware appliance-based solution, and we run the latest software, and it allows us to do both snapshots and recovery really quickly. What I'm going to do is just show you a couple of things. Here, it's just giving us an idea of how we're doing at the moment. We've got no live mounts or no cloud mounts. So live mount is where we've recovered a machine instantly, and we've got people up and running. So our customers that we host internally here, and also our own infrastructure. And cloud mount is where we're actually utilizing one of the public cloud services to actually mount those machines and get them up and running quickly as well. We can see also the number of virtual machines this particular infrastructure is protecting. So we've got 54 virtual machines being protected on there, but 7 of them don't have anything set up to actually protect them. So these are some of our boxes that we don't need protection on. So out of the 54, 47 are actually protected in there. We also have a number of what we call SLA domains, and I'll go into that a little bit more in a second. And then finally on the right, we've got some idea of the capacity that we utilize. We've got 68% of our capacity available, and we can see how much we're actually increasing per day, the amount of space we utilize, about 1.5 gig per day, and see where that is. At the top here, we can see some performance stats on how much bandwidth we're utilizing, so transferring data across the network into this infrastructure as well. So if I come back down and to virtual machines here and pick up our vSphere virtual machines, because we're running vSphere, we can see all the machines, and one of those machines, like I mentioned in here, will be AB server 01, which is this one here. So if I click onto that one, we will see more specific details about that particular machine. So at the moment, it's actually being protected using an SLA called critical. So it's a critical system machine, and we've got some specific things set for that. So if we click on it again, it'll take us in there. And what we're doing is we're doing hourly backups, and we're keeping those for 7 days. We're doing daily backups, keeping those for 30 days. We're actually doing a monthly and keeping those for 12 months, and we're doing an annual and keeping that for 7 years. And the way we do that, we roll up the data from that first, that hourly. We're just rolling those into 12 hours, then 24 hours, and then into, that becomes a day, and then we roll that into a week, and then we roll it into a month as we go forward. So we're not taking additional snapshots. We're using the data we've already collected and just summarizing it together so we get that. The other thing we've got set up on this is a thing called constant data protection. And what constant data protection allows us to do is ensure that we can recover to any point in time with this particular machine. So really easy to do that. And we can see the amount of storage that we're utilizing to protect this particular machine and how it's growing on the right-hand side. So quite easy for us to understand that. We can also do things like archive. So if we wanted to have an additional copy of this, we've actually got 2 copies already, because we snapshot on the local storage that we utilize for running the virtual machines, which is a Tintree VM store or flash array. So we've got copies there, but we've also copies here. So we've got 2 copies always, so we don't need a 3rd copy elsewhere. But we could actually archive to one of the cloud services, AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Cloud Platform, as another place to actually keep copies of this. So quite easy to do that. We can also then, if we go back to where we were, is look at the snapshots that we've done. So on the right-hand side, we can see all the snapshots have taken place, which days they are. And if I look at today, the 11th, we can see that those are being done every hour. So we can see them going forward. So the last one will be at 1:42. I did an on-demand snapshot. So at the top, you can see here on-demand snapshot. So I actually took a snapshot at that point in time. So you can add them manually as well as add them automatic. So these are going at 21 minutes past the hour every hour. And what the system does, it looks at the quietest time based on what it can see real time, and it's calculated that 21 minutes past the hour is the quietest time always, to be able to take those snapshots so that we don't have any effect on the infrastructure at all, which is a key thing. Currently, we've got 195 snapshots of that particular system, so we can recover to any of 195 points in time. But really, really easy to get back to those. And we can see some of the latest ones. So we can see an on-demand snapshot that I took earlier today, before I set off, just to go through that process and make sure we got one on there that we could recover to quite quickly. So what I'm going to do now is show you how easy it is to take that snapshot. So again, all I'm going to do is take on-demand snapshot. I'm going to say keep it with the current SLA, and I'm going to keep the same retention period. And once I've completed that, I'm going to jump back over here, and we're going to wait for that task to appear at the bottom. So as the process runs, it'll actually give us an idea of how long it took to actually take that snapshot. You have to consider that it's only making the changes since the last snapshot. So these are all differentials. So effectively what has changed since the last snapshot took place. So they're really quick. Commonly they're less than 20 seconds because we've got a lot of the data already, and the previous one I took around about I think it was 7 seconds. So that one's been queued and completed. It waited for 12 seconds, and the actual time to do it was actually just over 1 second, because I only took a snapshot of around about 15-20 minutes ago. So the amount of data changed since the last time it was taken was quite small. So we don't really need a lot of space, and there's not a lot of data to transfer. So we can do really quick. So if we're doing these 4 hourly or up to 12 hourly, we're looking at around about 20 seconds to do the snapshot. So it's not a great deal of time. And again, if we're doing it regularly, our RPO, our recovery point objectives can be quite short. What I'm going to do now is show you how we can recover from that. So there's a couple of ways we can do that. And I'm going to go to one earlier today. So if we go to, so we had an incident at 12 noon today, anything after 12 noon won't be usable because we've already got either the files already been deleted, or we've had a ransomware attack and all the files are encrypted. So what I can do is go to 11:21 in this case, and I can see the local when it expires, that particular one. And then I've got a number of options to the right. So if it was that someone had, say, accidentally deleted or overwritten or moved and you couldn't find a file, or a file had been corrupted by a program, what I can do is down here, I can recover files. So if I go to recover files, I just have apologize for looking away. I need to look at the screen when I'm clicking on them to make sure I'm clicking on the right thing, and it's much larger on my right screen. But we can see now down this list there are the different drives, and I can go into, say, the D drive. I can go into a particular area, maybe the shared area, and then I can pick a particular piece like ABC sales here. I can select that, and I can now go on and recover that. And when I do it, I can do it in 2 ways. I can download it to my local machine, so I get a copy of all the files in that folder. I can overwrite the original, so it writes over the top of the original. I can restore it to a different folder, so I can create a new folder, say recovered files, and put it into that folder. Or I can export it because I want to copy it to another backup environment. So commonly we're going to do it to a separate folder, because most users, if they've especially deleted some files in a folder, are not sure which ones they need to recover. So what we can do is get more of them and put them into that recovery folder. They can get the ones they want, and then afterwards delete that folder and all the files within it after moving the ones they need back to where they should be. I'm going to cancel that because there's no point me going through that process, but at least you've seen how easy it is to find the files. So it's just browsing through, and when you're ready, download, instant recover back to where they were, or recover into a different folder. So I'll cancel that. Some of the other things we can do, if we look down, is we can do an instant recover. If we do an instant recover, it's actually going to copy the whole of that virtual machine back into itself at that point in time. So if it was, say, 12 o'clock, it was completely encrypted by a ransomware attack, we can go to 11:21 and recover all of the files back into the system at that point in time. So quite quickly recover everything, and I'll show you how quick that is in a couple of minutes. We can also go down on to a thing called place on legal hold. What we can do is we can actually take a legal hold copy of one of the machines, so that if someone was doing some threatening legal action, we can actually have a legal hold copy, so there's no changes to that virtual machine from that point onwards. So you can always show them exactly how it was at that point in time, all the files, all the contents of those files. We can also mount the virtual disks. So mounting the disks is just having access to whichever drives are in it. And this particular one is a C&D drive. So we can mount the C&D drive, and then we can give access to another machine to those C&D drives if it was just files we wanted to get to and we weren't sure where they were. We just wanted access to all of them. But finally, what I'm going to do is mount virtual machine. So what I'm going to do with this is effectively take a copy of it so that we can see a copy that's spun up from there. So when I click mount virtual machine, I get another couple of options. So what I'm going to do is say keep it where it is at the moment. And one of the things I need to do down here is remove the virtual networking device so I don't get two of the machines with the same details on the same network at the same time, because it'll create effectively a copy of that machine. What I'm going to do now is then click mount, and I'm going to go back over here and we can see some activity. So previously we had things going for the snapshot, but now we've got a NAS data store being created. We've got, following on, a virtual machine being created, and then the power on of that virtual machine. So from the point that I hit start, which was 2:20 and 26 seconds, to completion and powered on, it's taken just over 10 seconds. And if I look, I will see a machine in here which is the same name, ABSRV01, but the time and date of the snapshot that I used to recover it. So I can see here that particular machine is there and ready to go. We can see Windows is running on it, it's powered up and ready to go. So really simple to recover a virtual machine to the point that it's actually running and get up and running really, really quickly. So imagine that you've had some kind of ransomware attack, or you've had a physical loss of infrastructure. This solution can actually give you a complete recovery within around about 10 to 20 seconds. So all up and running and available to access immediately. The way the system works as well, and the service we offer, is we can also replicate any of those snapshots are there back to our data center, and we can also spin them up there. So again, we can recover in the same amount of time, around about 10 to 20 seconds, if you don't have the physical infrastructure. Say if you had a flood or some other thing that's happened that's caused the outage at your local site, what we can do is use the same infrastructure we've got in our data center to take your snapshot data and recover your services and give you access to them immediately. So really simple to get things up and running and back available to you. So I hope that's been of interest to you. I'm going to say, I think it's really important that people consider how they protect their data. We utilize this technology because we think it's about the best that there is. So we use it for our own use, and we use it for all our customers. And we've developed a service on the back of working with Aston University and their Advanced Services Group to deliver this data protection as a service. We call it Tactile Protect. So if you're interested in knowing more about it, I'll just put my details on the bottom of the screen. You can contact me, lee.cassidy@tactiletechnology.com, or you can actually go to our website, www.tactiletechnology.com, and have a look at what we do there. And if it's of interest to you, contact us. We can go through exactly how the infrastructure fits, how we deploy it, and we can also then give you some pricing to give you an idea of what the costs are. But I think the protection of your data is really important these days, because we are more and more reliant on IT technology to run our businesses, and we've got majority of our customer data in those IT systems. So if we lose access to them or lose the data, we are going to find it really difficult to run our businesses. So really, really important that we do that. But what I'd like to do is just, again, give you a rundown of what we're doing this week. So remember, in the hot seat tomorrow, it's myself. I'm going to interview myself somehow. I'm still working on how I do that, but hopefully it'll be of interest to you tomorrow. On Wednesday, we've got our Enterprise Wednesday, and I'm going to be going through risk and compliance from an enterprise perspective. So large-scale organizations, anything from 500 up to 10,000 employees, especially if you're utilizing public cloud services and cloud-native applications. I think this will be a very interesting thing for yourselves. Thursday, we've got In the Hot Seat with Ben Grouchy of eCruit. So we're going to talk to him about his business and how he went through the Goldman Sachs 10,000 for Small Business program. On Friday, we're going to cover off some more pieces around securing your environment, this time around number plate recognition. So you can see how you can really simply put number plate recognition in place and how you can use it depending on the type of organization you are. So hopefully it's been of use to you today. I hope you've enjoyed what we've covered, and hopefully I'll see you again. Thank you very much. Bye.